Good morning. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar, the 5 ways to drastically increase construction productivity. Just wanted to remind everyone that we will be placing everyone in a listen-only mode, but we love questions, so please don't hesitate to submit any questions that come up during the presentation through the GoToWebinar dialog box. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Mike Merrill, COO of AboutTime Technology.
Thank you, Shannon, and good morning to everyone. Appreciate you joining us on the webinar today. Just wanted to give you a little bit of background about myself before we get started. I actually grew up in the construction industry, spent about the first 15 years of my professional career as a self-performing general contractor, and kind of worked up through the ranks. So this topic is near and dear to my heart and is part of why I helped found and start AboutTime back in 2003. Back when Palm Pilots were the greatest in tech that we could leverage. So we've come a long way since then, and since that time there's been a major explosion of technology offerings into the marketplace. Even in construction, we have all kinds of tools available to us now that even 5 to 10 years ago just were not available whatsoever. Of course, those things have the ability to really impact the industry and help us to limit the risks and liabilities that we face every day as contractors. In construction, really, we are risk managers. That's a big part of our job and something that we have to contend with every day. So I want to talk on this webinar a little bit about some of the typical business processes and some of those things that we can do to improve productivity, and maybe talk about some of the weak points that construction companies are contending with in their businesses. So to get started, we've got a lot of customers. We've done a couple of thousand deployments all across North America and even globally. We have customers in every trade, every discipline, union-based, non-union, commercial, residential, industrial, heavy highway, etc. All kinds of other mobile and remote industries that find value in our solution. One of these, in fact, Phoenix Petroleum out of Canada had an interesting story that they shared with us. We've got a case study on this, but their first full year of using AboutTime, they were able to recapture about 2 man-hours per day of additional productivity. And so it's not just the fact that we're tracking and logging payroll and time and all that production data. It is the fact that things are being measured, and so the ability to manage and improve those things are substantially increased and improved. You may have heard the phrase, we can't manage what we don't measure. So that's something that we want to help businesses do a better job of, is measuring not only their success, but even their failures, so we can learn why. A couple of things about AboutTime in the last recent past. We've continued to garner awards in the industry. Some of the top awards that construction professionals in software are seeking are like the Most Innovative Product Award at World of Concrete. We actually just won in 2017 again. So we've done a great job of staying on the leading edge of technology for construction, and so that's something that we want to continue to do and innovate and keep up with the mobile technologies that are becoming available and being improved upon all the time. As an agenda, there's a few bullets I want to talk through. First thing, what kind of challenges is construction facing as an industry for measuring productivity? Kind of what statistically is being used, or how much is it being leveraged? The third bullet here, we want to show a little bit how we actually solve these through a little bit of a demonstration presentation of our product on a mobile device. Today I'll use an iPad and kind of walk through what that looks like. And then at the end, we'll try and round things out with some Q&A and addressing those things that some of the attendees have found interesting or that they have questions about. So from there, let's dig into a little bit of a graphical view. So this graph actually shows, just kind of as a comparison between manufacturing and then also construction. Different industries, but blue-collar employees are performing the labor, so similar in terms of some of the aspects. As we see here, in the last 15 or 10 years, since 2005 up to 2015, a 10-year span, we saw manufacturing had an increased production of over 1.7 times, while as you look on this graph, construction actually dipped below and lost ground of the value that was being driven by field employees. So this is sourced by McKinsey & Company and is a very interesting study that we found. One of the other things that this graph shows is the cost overruns that occur in construction. Some of the statistics this report talks about, construction generally on mega projects has about an average of 30% cost overruns. So inaccurate estimating, inaccurate bidding, inaccurate results at the end. And so for some reason, that's just a challenge with construction, and that's something that we really want to help address and discuss. Same report had this graph, also very interesting, kind of like we saw previously. Construction is actually down 1.5% on their actual productivity rate in the last 10 years here. Hospitality, so they're almost 1% down. You see mining's up 0.5%, real estate almost 2%, finance and insurance, and again up here at the top, 5% increase over the last 10 years. IT communication. So our IT communication companies are doing better and increasing their productivity ratio per employee and for the dollars being earned. And again, construction's actually losing ground. So we want to help address that. Another topic and study that I'd like to cite here for just a minute is one done by CFMA and also the Mechanical Contractors Association of America, Texas A&M, and JB Knowledge actually spearheaded this topic, and especially with the Construction Science Department of Texas A&M University. And in that report, what we find is there are some limiting factors, excuse me, in technology. The first, almost 40% of the surveyed customers, which was nearly 3,000 construction companies across North America, nearly 40% said they don't have enough IT help. If we look at really the general numbers here and we bucket a few of these items, we can see that generally speaking, we've got technology isn't mature enough, management, excuse me, hesitant and not sure, lack of IT experience, employee hesitance. A third of the companies felt like that was one of their bigger problems. A third of the problem is their fear of employees being able to adopt and utilize technology. So lots of different challenges with construction companies achieving and enjoying these types of benefits that are available. And again, like we saw in the previous graph, other industries are leveraging, and we're not yet. Another thing, and this is something that I go to a lot of conferences and trade shows throughout the year, and when I go to the different sessions and seminars that they put on, this is something that I hear in person a lot, and that is the IT spend in construction is really low as an industry. Again, almost 56% spend less than 1% of their annual sales on IT. And so technology is moving along at light speed. Mobility is taking the market and the world by storm. Every 10-year-old kid across the globe almost has an iPhone or an Android in their pocket. So as an industry, we're under leveraging those tools. Another graph here, this is more about the will and maybe the desire. In construction, between these two statistics here, we have basically 79% believe that mobility is a priority. And so, 21%, these are probably the laggards, the guys that are used to kind of the old school stuff that really like that paper, that want something in their hand physically. Although that's the minority, that's still a lot of companies that are clinging to their old methods and their old ways. What we saw from that graph previously is, as an industry, we're actually losing ground. So the old ways are not keeping up with the market trends. The other thing, as it relates to field data collection specifically, and this is a very, very interesting slide to me, and as I add a few of these together, almost 72% of these 3,000 companies surveyed feel that they're not collecting data at the job site when things occur. They're basically writing it down later, they're filling it out on a spreadsheet, or they're maybe even physically calling in and verbally reporting their time to an admin in the office. And so for this day and age, that's just not, it's almost unthinkable that we're not leveraging those things better as a market and an industry. Spreadsheets, again, are really just a data trap for that labor. It's stuck on the seat of someone's truck. It's on their clipboard down by their feet on the passenger side. That data needs to be in the office, in front of management, in front of an admin. If we're going to look at pending overtime or other things that are accruing, basically dollars being spent every day and every minute that ticks by, we just don't have visibility into that until those things hit our job cost and payroll systems, et cetera. Just as a conversation piece, I hear most of the presentations we do, and we take notes and talk through and do kind of a technical audit with customers and prospects to learn what they're dealing with today. And for the vast majority of them, they feel like it's 2.5 to 3 weeks delay of actually seeing the results from what's going on the job site right now. So they're, if we're talking here, we're at the beginning of August, they're going to be in the 3rd or 4th week of August before they know what was going on August 2nd from an office data perspective. So that's just something that we have to improve on. So as far as the manual side of time cards, time sheets, paper, this is a real problem. Another thing, 47.3%, according to the study, have no mobile app whatsoever to report anything on the job site for that day. So they're just not leveraging those tools. I would liken this to somebody electing to use their Phillips screwdriver every time they need to sink a grabber screw when they have a fully charged DeWalt drill sitting there right next to them. They're electing to grab the Phillips. So these tools are in their hands. They're available. They're readily available in the market or any mall or kiosk. There's not a lot of good reasons left that we're not tapping into those. And the other thing, statistically, this is kind of the last one of these type of slides, 52.7% are not using any mobile apps for safety. If we're talking about OSHA compliance or just general care and concern, general safety issues, and kind of preventative measures that we can take, there's a lot of options that we can do as a business and an industry in construction to ensure that our people are safe and ensure that we're documenting that so that we're not left with a large liability. All right, so let's talk about more specifically the actual bullets here. 5 ways to drastically improve productivity, like we talked. Okay, so we want to leverage the power of mobility, so we want to tap into mobile devices. The second thing, we want to get rid of data silos. We want to get rid of data traps where information is, again, sitting on someone's seat of their truck or sitting in their mind or sitting on a paper or maybe not sitting anywhere until Friday afternoon at 3:25, 5 minutes before they turn the reports in. I experienced this in my business. I was on a second floor of had glass walls on the outside, and I would sit there and watch my foremen and superintendent line up in their trucks right before it was time to turn the reports in, and they were all out there like little mice lined up filling out their paperwork. And I knew that most of them probably can't remember what they had for lunch 2 days ago in a lot of cases. They're surely not going to remember what productivity was done on Monday or Tuesday of the same week. They surely wouldn't remember that Jerry was at a funeral and Carl had a speeding ticket that he had to go fight. And so they're possibly even reporting time for these employees that weren't physically even at my job sites. So job cost is off, my estimates are off, my payroll's off. my productivity's down, and nobody knows anything because I'm allowing my people to fill the paperwork out 5 minutes before they turn it in 4 days later. So these are things we want to help get rid of. And ultimately, the integration piece is key, where we feed that data electronically and digitally back over to where you need to see it, and it hits your reports. We want to get rid of, again, all manual processes in this paper and spreadsheets. We want the data to flow from the field to the admin where all of management has ability to see it in real time, or at least daily if that's a better workflow for your business. So daily reporting, daily submittal of timely information is critical if we're going to increase and improve productivity and actually achieve profitability that we can't get any other way. Then the other thing is tracking the key performance metrics, or KPIs, in real time, giving them tools where they can document this accurately and efficiently. And it takes less time than anything they're doing today because it's a menu-driven application that's built to collect this data. And then the last thing on this particular slide is we want to talk about using these things to motivate employees, giving possibly incentives, or having performance tied to the benefit that we can offer to those employees. If they're ahead of schedule, or if they've completed a certain productivity ratio, that means more profitability to the business. That means that more than just an attaboy, you now have the ability to measure and reward those that are truly performing and helping you maintain and achieve new profitability. These tools can help allow that. So there's a few pieces to the system, and I'll talk about each of these as I go through the actual app. Number one, time. It's kind of what we're known for. Of course, with that, and after a couple of years in the industry, everybody said, that's great, we got payroll, we're running overtime, everything looks good, but could we somehow document what they're actually producing and completing within that shift or within that day as a crew or as an individual employees? And then that progressed to where they were saying, you know, the customers wanted to choose which asset they were using. Are they using the backhoe or the bobcat, or which generator or jackhammer or compactor, etc. So AboutTime has allowed for those things to be tracked also. And then the last piece on the mobile device is a forms module that we came out with several years back. That allows customers to digitally collect the same data that they've been collecting on spreadsheets or paper. And so, and I'll show you what that looks like in the mobile app and kind of walk through that a little bit. And then in the end, to tie a bow on everything, of course, one of the most critical things is that integration with your accounting and payroll system. And we'll talk about what some of those options are and kind of how that looks and as we go through this. But generally speaking, those are the things that round out what we're going through with from a mobility perspective, and what we're collecting, how we're tracking it. And so with that, let me just bring up quickly the actual mobile device here on my screen. So this is just an emulator of my iPad. So I'm going to pin in as a basic employee, and there are a few methods and ways that we can log in, and we'll talk about those and walk through them depending on the company's workflow. So as a basic employee, this could be my phone or my foreman's phone or a laptop kiosk somewhere mounted. I put my 4-digit PIN in, and now, Pete Jackson, here I am sitting at my desk, and you see I'm set to the Walmart Supercenter excavation site here on my screen, and I can clock in. I have the date and the time at the top, so I log in to this job, and now I'm presented with a list of cost codes or tasks. These are pulled from your accounting system, so these do come directly from whatever system you're using for payroll and job costs, and we integrate with well over 100 of those, all of the major ones, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as soon as we get done with the mobile side of things. So I'm going to say I'm doing general excavation work, and now Pete, here's the date and time, here's his confirmation screen. I could actually come in here on this and hit the little note clipboard at the top. And in that, I can speak a note or type a note, and it will propagate. That's a good word. Let's see if that works. It did. All right, so you get the point. So even voice to text is very powerful, and we can leave a work note on the given shift that the employee worked. When I hit accept, what this mobile app does is actually confirms the location on a map, a geolocation of me as an employee, and it compares it to the job site that I'm billing time to. If I'm not inside of that job area and the tolerance or parameter, if I put a half-mile radius on the geofence in our software, it will monitor that and send an alert out, as well as populate on a report and flag that record that there was a GPS infraction on that punch. So absolute confirmation of my photo, where I was, what I was working on, what time, and then the note that I left. So let's assume I've gone through my day, it's time for lunch, or the end of the day, it's time for me to clock out. I can come in here and put my pin in again and choose the out option. And now I'm asked, what units did I complete in general excavation? Now, if I'm tracking a metric of loads, you know, we moved 25 truckloads of material. Was I injured on the job today? No, I was not. And yes, I took all my required breaks. So in that simple motion and in a real-time scenario, you could imagine I could do all of that probably within 10 seconds. I've confirmed my physical location. I took a photo of where I'm at. I ended my shift. I have production units for what I completed, which cost code I was working on, all done in real time, and the office has availability to that data that day without waiting for anything. That information is already available to my business and our company. So let me show a quick second workflow, similar employee level. Juan Gonzalez here is a Spanish-speaking employee as a default. So now you see these buttons in Spanish. I clock in. I'm presented with a list of cost codes, which these are labels. So you can do a dash Spanish translation on these if you want, and they'll display that way. I'm gonna say I'm doing site clearing, and now on site clearing I actually have a list of the assets or equipment that are available to choose from. I'm using this 580 Super K Extendaho. I select it. Now with Juan, I have his cost code, his date, his time, his photo, his GPS, and which piece of equipment he was operating. I see aceptar in Spanish, I hit it, and now I get a GPS of where Juan is physically. So same thing with Juan. If he gets to the end of the day or his shift, he goes to clock out, photo, GPS, what did I hecho or what did I complete? And I did 12 loads. And again, can translate this to Spanish also. This is a global question that you can require employees to answer. We do have many customers that may translate that into Spanish also. No, and yeah, I took my breaks. So similar workflow. Now, these are individual employees on their own phone or device, or logging in on a foreman's phone or his device. They can go up and put their PIN in on his app, and it will bring that same look and feel and view up. Or as a foreman, and this is another workflow, I might manage a crew of guys. When I clock in, I actually can choose myself, or I can pick the crew that's working with me today. I can choose from a list below. Daniel Bode was also there, and we also have CJ. He's with us too. When I clock in, it now presents me with a list of work that we're doing. We're all doing gravel work right now. Here's a list of all the employees, date and time. I'm doing it for my crew. I can leave the same note. I can put a ticket number in at the top in green, as you can see. I hit accept, and now we go to work as a crew. So along with that, so that's all around labor, compliance or safety questions, productivity, asset tracking. I'd like to show you a couple of other options. We talked about productivity, and that's really one of the main things of this webinar. I'm going to come into my location manager here on the screen, and you see here I have the third menu down is task budget. That task budget dashboard is a view of the collective data from the system of budget per cost code and everything that was accrued as a company on those cost codes for that job. So lots of data here. You see we've got 3 tabs here. So I've got hours, and the second one over is units, and then I can highlight this one here the summary of units per hour and percent complete. This is for all the job sites that are active for me as a crew leader or on this device, or as a company, if you want to just default that they have access to every job. So you have control of what they see, you have control of how they have access to it, and then also as a foreman, you have visibility into your project. You see at the bottom here, we have 5,200 man hours budgeted on this project. We're 4606.52. When's the last time that anyone saw a 0.52 on a time card, on a report, on a spreadsheet? That was, I mean, most of the time you would never even see that number, but that happens to be the truth. The percent complete is 88.59 from a data perspective. I always tell people that AboutTime allows you to manage data, not drama. So that's something that we have found and our customers have found extremely useful in their businesses. So from there, I'm going to show you really quickly one other area. We talked about Forms Express. So I'm going to pin in as a manager, and I have this option of Forms Express at the bottom. When I come in here, I have form types broken out. These are custom forms for my business. We give you a form builder within our software. You can build these forms and fields exactly the way you want and with the data that you're looking for. So I'm going to show really quick just a form I filled out last night and kind of prepping. This is one that's partially completed, and you can see here I have extension cords, yes or no. I don't have any on this site. Hard hats, yes or no. Notes. Everyone on the job site was wearing hard hats. I can come through and fill all this out, and even at the bottom here I can sign physically on this document and fill out whatever form fields that I've chosen are important for my business. So very useful. I can come back in on this note and add to it more. All is well. So now I've got a digital tool that can collect data. I can send it to the office. I can get to it. We can feed it off into an export, into a spreadsheet. We can feed this data in a lot of cases to accounting or other systems that repositories you may want to store this information. Lots of tools and options for tracking all types of form data. So in a live safety form, I'll just show you really quick. So maybe it's a safety meeting sign-in sheet. I have the job number. I can pick the date here. I mean, I can set associations to which employee or job location here on the form. I have printed names. I have signature fields. So this is up to 15 people could sign in on a sheet for attending a safety meeting. So these things are all custom buildable for your needs. We're giving you the ability to be more productive as a company from a data collection standpoint in time, labor, productivity, asset or equipment tracking, and then forms management and documentation. And ultimately, we're tying a bow on each one of those things in order to allow your business to automate and digitize those things that are most important to you. So that wraps up the mobile side. Just in finishing up here, I mentioned 100+ accounting systems. Again, chances are you may see your system in this swath of logos. Again, there's probably 3 to 4 times as many that we have in our client base represented. If you're on ADP or Paychex or third-party payroll, we can feed this data that we've collected off there into the format they need, as well as into your accounting system. Everything's mapped and configured to land in job costs with your overtime rules, your union rules, etc. So we're very, very skilled and experienced in integrating with all types of systems. I always tell customers we're like the carry-on luggage. You can take us wherever you need to go. We can reroute like spark plug wires. We can reroute those data points to the new spark plugs on a different engine if you decide to choose. Again, just to recap, we talked about leveraging power mobility, getting rid of silos and integrating that data, automating it, getting rid of paper and spreadsheets, tracking the KPIs. Again, how many units? Are we safe? Were we injured? Did we have the meeting? Filling out paperwork on digital format on their device, and within 5 minutes, that paper, instead of a fax or a scan or a physical document that needs to be filed and archived and stored and maintained, It's already in the system, and it's backed up and good forever. And then the last thing, because of all of these things, we have ability to measure and put a stake in the ground and say, how can we be better? What can we do to motivate employees based on performance and data and real information that we feel confident about, so that we're not rewarding poor behavior, but we're reinforcing and we're motivating people and our employees and our company culture to be more productive, which is the goal. We want to grow. We want to have profitable growth in construction, and most companies would say that would be their definition of success. So with that, thank you. Shannon, are there any questions that came in from the attendees? Love to address those for the last couple minutes, if we can.
Yeah, we just had a few questions come in. One question is related to the customer you spoke about at the beginning of the webinar. Were the 2 man-hours per day gained, was it per employee or just 2 man-hours for their crew?
That's a great question. That was per employee. They in his interview, they may have 5 to 10 man crews, and in a 10-man crew, they were gaining 20 hours per day for that crew of productivity due to measurement and documentation of that information.
Great. And next question is, can supervisors put in productivity at the end of a shift, or is it just the employees that can do it?
That's a great question. So yeah, so a supervisor can go back in with his privileges and review the time that was worked and add production units, either to a given employee or him as the foreman for the crew. But yes, he can do that after the fact, and that's a common workflow also in a crew environment.
Okay, and in regards to productivity and making the office staff more productive, how do you get new employees added to AboutTime?
Okay, another good question. So we are integrated with the back-end accounting system. So employees that are added there and activated are automatically visible to AboutTime. So we integrate the back end of our database and the accounting database or payroll system, and have a view of newly populated employees. Those automatically get made available to AboutTime. Now, if something happens where the accounting system doesn't have that initially, and they're temp employees or new hires, those can be added in AboutTime initially, pushed out to the devices, and then when they are finally added and completed and activated in an accounting or a payroll system, we can link and map those two with the same code, and our system will have that same visibility. So there's 100% data integrity with everything that was collected for that new employee.
Okay, we have one more question. Can an employee have multiple certified classes in one shift?
Yes, they can. So yeah, and that's a great detailed question and technical, which is wonderful. In AboutTime, what we do is we mirror your pay rate, pay code, pay type, your classes, the crafts, all of those different pay types and pay IDs and rates are mapped up in AboutTime, so that when we collect a unit of time, a shift of any number on a given job, that job will have the hierarchy or the priority first. If we look at the job rule as a default, and there's something more restrictive or specific to the employee on that level, that can even override and add additional information. So all of the rates and codes and craft and classes are mirrored in this system, and so it behaves just as though you manually typed it in to that accounting system in the right field that pays them the correct rate. However, we do it digitally and real time and without all the brain work. We set it up right once, and we hit go, and it runs.
Okay, that's it for the questions. I just wanted to thank everyone for their time and let everyone know we'll be sending you, if you'd like to go ahead and contact us to schedule a custom demo, here's the contact information, and you can either call us or email us. We'll be sending you a recording of this webinar if you want to share it with any of your other colleagues, but we look forward to chatting with you to find out how we can help you drastically increase your construction productivity. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.